Are we recording? Okay. All right. Welcome back, everyone. We have a couple small things while we're waiting for our attorney to discuss some legal matters. We are going to go into a little bit of tomorrow's agenda and tick off a few small items. One of those items is going to be the LDF case with Westerling. And Hagit, would you like to
Yes.
start off on that?
Yeah. So it starts with a tragedy. A little boy kidnapped, murdered, and the case lies fallow for many, many years. Finally, they discovered who it was, and because this is all the documents, because the investigation's over, everything's done now. Well, the boy's parents go to court and say, we have a right to privacy. There's material in that stack we don't want out. That's what this case is about. So it's the, FOIA versus right of privacy is the issue at hand. The LDF committee considered this case and approved $5,000 to fight for the right to release the information. A lot of what we went through, the argument is just because reporters get information doesn't mean that we put all that information out there, we're responsible. But bottom line, we approved $5,000, but obviously the legal fees are exceeding that. And so they've come back and asked for an additional amount of money. The LDF committee talked about it. We could ask you to approve an additional 10, but what we're asking you to approve is an additional $5,000 toward this. I know some people might ask, how much money does the LDF fund have? And Tara recently researched that for me, and there's about $103,000 in that account. Used to be a lot more money, but we transferred $75,000 to the Forever fund. But that's what we have in there, which is why one of the reasons why I'd be more comfortable with $5,000 instead of an additional $10,000. But that's the motion that I would ask someone on the board to put forth. And if you have any questions.
Do I have a motion to offer from the Legal Defense Fund an additional $5,000 for the Westerling case?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, motion made by Sue. Do I have a second? Second by Lynn. Okay, discussion.
A question, I guess, for the people who administer the fund. How much, if we have $103,000 or so in there, how much do we earn on it every year? This obviously must be invested somewhere, and we just, as often as possible, try to plug only the interest out of it. Or is this,
well,
no, or it's $103,000 and it's not earning anything?
Tara knows what it's earning, I would imagine, more than I would.
It's invested. I don't have the market value, like what we're earning off the top of my head, sorry.
It's not much.
But yeah,
okay.
it is
Yeah.
spent for that purpose, and so that's what is spent.
And in the past, the way the fund has been funded has been through both the silent and the silent auction that we have at convention, as well as a live auction event. Now this year, you probably have heard that we're not going to do the silent auction, so we'll have to talk about ways to fundraise for the LDF in the future. But I think that we have certainly the ability to fund this. That should not be a reason not to fund.
If you do, just more information, not out of objection, just out of curiosity.
Good question. Okay. I'm glad to answer any others.
And then I was going to say, I think on the back end, we maybe try to figure out a way where we put it in something where we can earn more money on it, live off the interest with that. That's not for right now.
Sure. Additional question, Patty.
Do we know, these kinds of questions don't normally come to the full board, do they?
No, very rarely. Usually,
So why are we asked to?
well,
weigh
the
in
policy,
on it?
the way the policy for the Society of Professional Journalists is that people can make requests to the LDF committee, which is comprised of the executive board, a chair, and one other person who's appointed who is sued. And has been sued. I think we have someone else on it now. But at any rate, so you can apply for up to $5,000 from the committee. If you ask for any additional money, the full board must approve it. It's up to $10,000 is whatever.
Okay. Additional questions? Okay, we have a motion on the floor and second. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Thank you very much.
The extra 5,000. All right, so we're going to go now to skipping around a little bit, we're going to the disaster recovery policy. Allison.
You should have this copy in front of you. It's a one-pager front and back. We've been told by the auditors that we should have a disaster recovery plan. So I am bringing this before you because we need to create one in the office, something that we'll do internally. And it mostly centers around the data computer system and our archives, just having an appropriate plan so that they're backed up should something happen because of a tornado or some, snowstorm or something, what the procedure is in terms of who should be contacted first, how Billy our web person will recover anything, where all the information's kept. And we need that in a sort of written form, just a policy on what we would do in the event of an emergency. And it takes a couple of months to put together because there are a lot of people involved in terms of knowing where all the information is stored and how we're going to back it up in the cloud and all of that. So this is something that we will put together, and when we have the draft, present to you, hopefully by September, just so you can see it and comment or whatnot.
Do we have business as part of the insurance coverage, blanket coverage or whatever? Is there a rider, anything like that for business interruption insurance or coverage for loss?
I do believe we have on our insurance,
Okay.
yeah, a rider in case there's some
We don't.
tragedy. Just look at that.
Any additional questions? Okay,
The,
yep, go ahead.
the funding for this, is this already incorporated in the budget we approved earlier, or is this an additional expense to set this up?
No, this is a limited expense. We're not going to have someone do it outside. We're going to do it in-house because there are templates for our size. If we were bigger, Habitat for Humanity or something, we'd need someone to do it. But since we're so small, our stuff is not spread all over. So we can do it ourselves with the template that we were provided.
Very good. All right, you'll keep us updated
Yes.
as that develops. All right, very good. All right, again, skipping around a little bit, nominations report, Lynn.
Sure. Okay, so I'm going to send this email now since we're talking about it. If you want to look at this Google Doc, it has lists of people that nominations committee has reached out to and or the status if they are interested in running or not interested. You will notice there are not a lot of names that are there. And it's been, I'll be very honest, very frustrating, just the whole process of filling the nominations committee. It was very difficult to get members to even serve on that, which I was very disappointed in and frustrated with. But now we have a committee and we have asked around. We've only been asking for maybe about 2 weeks though. And I think the leads announcement just went out 2 weeks ago, maybe about 2 weeks ago. So I mean, still we're early on in the stages. But for whatever reason, and for most of the people that I know I've reached out to, and Michelle and Jane can speak to this as well, it just doesn't seem to be the right time for them in their life. They are interested at some point, just for whatever reason, this September or a 2-year commitment or a year commitment is just not something that works for them, which there's not really much we can do with that. But I guess the biggest thing is what I'm asking is, I'm actually going to pass this around. If you write down names, I have no problem reaching out to these people, like anyone you think of. We really need more help. And I'm also open to hearing other ways to possibly try to recruit people. And Jane and Michelle, feel free to chime in.
Well, what Lynn said is exactly what I found. I asked several people, and they're all interested in being part of the organization, but don't feel it's the right time. A few of the people in Region 1 are very interested in maintaining their regional involvement for right now, but I really can see them, really 3 of them moving up in national at some point. Some people are just, just a bad time. You have little kids who you're trying to get tenure or something like that.
And so just, I guess I should have done this first, I apologize, backing up the positions that are open to run for, we have president-elect, which is a one-year term, then would become president the next, secretary treasurer, which is a one-year term, at large, which would be a 2-year term, and there are 2 positions, and then we have the region 10 director, which would be a one-year term, obviously one position.
I had the sort of same experience in culture, a lot of people, especially at our regional conference in I thought maybe we could, I was gonna send out an email to all the chapter leaders in our region, maybe all the regional directors could do that. Reach out to get some names of people who want to know.
So Michelle just had that idea, and I think it's a great idea. Would you want me to draft an email and send it to the regional directors, and would you forward it, or would you rather draft your own? Do you want me to draft it? Yes?
Sure.
Cool.
You're
Okay, I will
volunteering,
draft, yeah, no, I will draft it. So I will draft a note so that you guys could send, because I think that might be helpful. Again, if you could kind of add names to this list, that would be great, because I will reach out to those people. And please don't hesitate to reach out to people on your own as well.
I just want to request when the RDs have been adopted, they send it out to everybody in their region, not just chapter leaders, because we have 41% unaffiliated that may be interested.
And the other thing I was thinking, and I don't know if this is a good idea, I'd be totally willing to volunteer this, and I don't know if headquarters we have time for this, but I was just thinking maybe some people are unsure about what the role is and are uncomfortable just with like what serving on a board means, and would it be helpful to hold like a webinar or like a Zoom chat, a Google Hangout, I mean something where we're answering questions, even if it's a phone call. I don't know if that would be helpful, but if it would be, I would be more than willing to do that. I would though, if I did that, want someone who's been a regional coordinator or a regional director to do that with me, just because I haven't held that position. So that would be helpful.
Okay. Well, first of all, I just want to thank you personally for this thankless job of doing the recruiting and the calls and everything you're going to continue to do to reach out to get a list of robust candidates. We can make it. Maybe not as robust as we would want, but as robust as we can possibly have. So thank you, and thank you to Jane and everyone on the committee. This is hard work. This is phone calls, it's persistence. This is disappointment, but it is extremely important work. And you have my gratitude for taking this on, for chairing this initial committee, this brand new group, this brand new effort on this, these brand new positions. So thank you so much for doing this, for all the work you put in and all the work you'll continue to put in. Thank you so much.
I'm glad to do it.
Yes. All right, Andy, go ahead.
One thing that just popped into my mind, we had a discussion, I think it was over a regional director vacancy. We decided to choose one person, we didn't choose one or more other people, and we had a discussion at that point where we made sure that we still harnessed the interest that the other people had. So I would encourage us, unless we think they're not qualified, to just go back through some of the people who applied for positions in the past that have not been chosen or run in recent elections to also ask them. If you want some help compiling those names, then I can do that.
I mean, I think should the people who ran last year, would their names still be on our website or no?
I'm not sure. Kara?
Oh, you do have a meeting?
Oh, you have a meeting?
Forward then to me.
All right, fabulous. Thank you, Andy. His idea. Yes.
Thank you. That are in bold that are going to run.
Oh, yes.
Got some names that are not bold and that.
Okay, yes. So on that sheet, sorry, yes. So if you're looking at that sheet, if their name is in bold, that means they're running. If there's a not interested, that means they're not interested. If it's not bolded and there's not a not interested, that means still waiting to hear back.
Okay.
But there are people we reached out to. Basically, also, I didn't want people like reaching out to someone reaching out to someone like 8 times.
Yes. Makes sense.
I would encourage everybody to think about their own networks, inside SBJ, outside SBJ. We all have a lot of friends who are in the business or advocates of the business. And, you know, as we talked about this back in the task force, it was really trying to think broadly. And I know it's a heavy lift, so I add my thanks to Rebecca's. But there are people out there that we don't know about necessarily. Now, I'm not saying that you're going to approach someone who you've never met before, but you've always admired their work in journalism, and they're going to go, oh yeah, I definitely would like to be on that SBJ board. I mean, just sign me up, right? But again, just think about your entire Rolodex, if you will, and whether you can have a conversation. You know, obviously, we all support SBJ, we wouldn't be here. So give them a good sales pitch if you think they would be a brethren for the cause.
I would really put a challenge to every single board member to give Lynn at least one name.
That'd be great.
Okay, so that is 22 names additional that are not on this list. Okay, I wrote down, I think, 3 off the top of my head as this list was going around. But I really would strongly encourage every board member to send her at least one name. I think as current board members, as people who represent large swaths of our membership, I think it's incumbent upon all of us to help in this endeavor and to give Lynn a robust group from which to solicit.
Could we ask Robert to make that appeal to the foundation board as well?
That would be wonderful.
That's what I've been doing. You know, I know my hand up.
You'd like to start again?
Not at all.
Okay. All right, very good. Yes, go ahead, Michelle.
So I brought this up with Lynn. I know part of the nominations committee we're not charged with finding future regional coordinators, but I just wondered how we're gonna recruit those for the future.
Yeah, so that question has come up, and it's my understanding in my reading of what I was charged to do with that is not something you're supposed to be doing. But I don't know who's doing it. So if you want us, we can add this to the list, but it was my understanding that was not the role, but no one else was doing it, so
I'm not sure who else would do it other than the nominations committee. I honestly don't know. I mean, it makes the most sense for the nominations committee to do it. Even though it's not on the board, it is nominations for national, for offices. These are still elected offices.
Christine, could you talk about how, are the dates different for that though, of voting, or is it all gonna be done at the same time?
That's okay. Regional delegate timing is different, which is also another thing because that is also elected, and we don't have someone soliciting for that. So that timing is different. Regional coordinators, though, would take place at the same time as the EOJ.
Okay.
Put it on for the record.
Could you send in which regions are, well, because not everyone will. Thank you. Okay. Could you send me a list of which ones? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Christine.
Isn't it in the board?
All right, so, yes.
Just one point of order, going back with our early discussion having to do with the treasurer and the recommendation that Lauren indicated that if we were to consider going to a national banking reserve system, that we might need an opinion from our attorneys, because apparently there was some similar matter that came up on an earlier occasion. So can we respectfully request that be reviewed as a possibility by our attorneys?
I was planning to bring it up during.
I don't know if that's going to be the best time now. I think we're going to have to study it.
But to raise it for their awareness.
Okay.
So it could be
Is that okay?
That's fine.
Okay.
That's fine. Okay. Okay, so moving on, we still have 20 more minutes for the attorney comes in. So I'm going to go to the First Amendment Forever Fund committee formation. I hope you all read the note from Dave Collier. We have about over 220,000 built up in the Legal Defense Fund, and in the words of Dave, it's time to take this out for a spin. So he has respectfully requested that we form a committee to discuss ways that we can use this. Dave is willing to chair that committee, which is wonderful, since the First Amendment Forever Fund was sort of his child and his brainchild in this effort. So I'm going to be talking with him. My plan is to solicit the entire SPJ membership via leads, so we can get some people who may not be involved, but may be very interested in this particular issue and this particular project. So I'm going to put it out for the full membership. I will be sending you something to put in leads. We're probably going to try to keep it small, 5 to 7 members, and a good working committee that we can then, meet either via email or on Zoom, and have these discussions about what, how best to go forward. So that is the plan, and I'm planning on doing that sometime. This month is a challenge because of things personally going on with me, but at the latest early May, as I plan to send out the solicitation, and then we'll get some committee members, and then we'll announce, and Dave and I will discuss, make sure the committee is robust and diverse and represents different aspects of SPJ, and then we'll go that way. Yes, Rebecca.
I just had a question, I guess. Once the committee's formed, is the idea that it would work in a similar way as the LDF committee? Is there going to be a limit on how much money they can put out? I mean, because I don't think we have any of that in place.
We know, we have to discuss, we kind of have to discuss our own rules. My preference would be for us to very closely model LDF. That is my plan, but, Dave and I have not had that discussion yet. So, that's going to be my suggestion, and we'll discuss that going forward.
Well, actually, I would hope that actually they would work hand in glove with LDF, especially as a lot of their initial funding did come from the LDF fund. But I also want to say that we should be promoting the heck out of this at EIJ. We are launching a brand new initiative that is extremely timely now with all the controversy around so-called fake news. So we may be able to find ways we can work this into sessions or promote it. I'm marketing speech at EIJ, and that's definitely should be part of the conversation she said in the second date.
Okay. I don't have much of a conception of how it's different than LDF, right? So maybe that's what's going to be worked out.
There may not be. I mean, there may be
dollars that are raised for the LDF.
This is more of a legal offense fund. This is us. Exactly.
Right, okay.
So it works a little differently. Again, the projects, those first couple initiatives, we're just going to have to see what's out there. That's going to be really for the committee to decide.
So LDF really might become a part of the Forever Fund. It's one branch of.
No, they're two separate. It's sort of a legal offense and a legal defense. I mean, these are, the committee would be looking for proactive, not like people coming to us for money. It's what can we spend this money for? It's going to be more proactive than LDF, which is responsive. Reactive. So that's going to
like the project. So like if someone in a state sees that there's legislation that's coming that can be harmful, they may say, we want $5,000 to lobby. I don't know.
It might be. It might be. Again, these are all the preliminary conversations that Dave and I and this new committee are going to have. I would welcome suggestions. I would welcome ideas from all the board members. But these are discussions that we haven't had yet, because this is, we're just now getting ready to launch this. So those discussions will happen. So, and hopefully with input from as many board members as would care to opine. So, anything else? Okay. All right, so we still have a little bit of time. Bob Becker is not here to discuss the Quill bylaws changes. So I'm going to vote to go into executive session. Okay, so we can get some preliminary conversations about legal matters before our attorney gets on the line. Now I have a motion to go into executive session. Do you have a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Okay. We'll take a 5-minute break